Hello everyone! How are you doing? Welcome back to, I guess this is Turf Wars. With me, Katie Montgomery. We're gonna have some chill times and a stream talking about trans rights and the crazy world of all the things that have been happening around the world, mainly in the UK and the US, same as we usually do. Yeah, we've got a load of stuff. We've actually got, I don't want to say lots of good news, because good news in the context of 2025, like good news where like judges are stopping things from eradicating trans people, or so that kind of good news, not like true good news. But yeah, should be good. Sounds like the audio is good. Thank you very much for letting me know in chat. How is chat everyone doing? How is everyone in chat doing, is the sentence I tried to say. I hope you're all well. I saw that you saw Poppy on my blur screen before I start. She was clambering over the keyboard, and I had to carry her off and dump her down. I'm sure she's grumpy this evening. I'm not sure why, but she's probably going to jump up quite a few times. Someone talking about Wes Streeting moving from attacking trans people to attacking the disabled. Yes, I think we might cover that. I have a lot of topics to cover this week, and I don't want to go on for 3 hours. So, we'll see. But I think we might cover that. Someone says they upset a turf last night. Is that because you are a trans person and you existed? Or a more specific reason. 18 months on HRT this week. That is exciting. That's what's like when things start happening, right? I know some people say like, oh, with when they took HRT, it was like day 2 and they noticed something straight away, like physical and emotional change. Nothing for me happened for like 6 months. And nothing major until at least like 2 years. I mean, like things happen, like your face changes and all, these kinds of things, but not like, yeah, I don't know. So I'm not saying that's bad being 18 months. I'm saying like, welcome to the starting line. There's a whole lot more to go. So that's cool. Oh, we've got Prophet Zod in the chat. Hi Zod, how are you doing? I hope you're well. We haven't interacted in a while. Actually, I haven't even looked to see if you're on Blue Sky. I should do that. I could do that live on air right now. I might even be following you already. I did have like an app to oh, I can't find you. Maybe you're not on there. I did have an app that like found all my Twitter people who I followed and then followed them automatically on Blue Sky, but yeah, I don't know if that got everyone. For anyone who doesn't know Prophet Zod, it does really good YouTube videos on atheism and has a really cool opening theme tune. At least there's a good guitar version of it. But yeah, you should all go check him out. Yeah, anyway, right, so we'll get on to some things. So I've got loads of topics to cover. The first thing I wanted to just say to chat, this isn't really much of a topic, but we are trying to, on this show, focus more on what you can do and what we can do as a community and how to organize and stuff to actually like achieve stuff. So the first thing I wanted to highlight here is from Trans Safety Network, who I've mentioned a few times on this show. Trans Safety Network are a UK trans rights organization led by trans people. They're not like some big major funded organization like Stonewall. They're not like a political lobby group. It's just, I mean, basically a bunch of trans people who do very high quality journalism and analyses of various trans rights things happening in the UK. And they are saying they take pitches and pay contributors for original investigative journalism, informing and empowering the trans community against threats to trans safety. And if you have a pitch, you can reach out to them. I am not part of Trans Safety Network. I do donate to them. You could donate to them if you wanted, if you're not good at writing articles. Or you could find another trans rights organization. That's fine, whatever. I personally recommend Trans Safety Network's output. I think it's very good. I couldn't say what it was like to work with them, but I do know some of them, and they all seem like good people. So if you are someone who is, maybe you're a professional journalist, or maybe you're an aspiring journalist, or maybe you're just a person who is decent enough at writing a blog articles or whatever, or you think you might be, and you have something that you want to, like a story you want to write up on or something, maybe this is the time to have a go. We can't have too many people writing about trans rights from a trans person's perspective. Someone did ask in the comments if it just has to be trans people. I don't know if they are just looking for trans people or they're also looking for cis people, allies and stuff, but it's worth at least messaging them. And that's like, that is something you can do. I think that I know one of the things that at least the like influencer side of the online left that I'm aware of is spending more time to talking about how the right and the far right have like dominated internet media and the mainstream media in the last decade or so, to the point where like every single major social media and news site is right wing. And that's definitely something we need to fight back on and like create a more sane ecosystem in opposition to that. And that is going to involve money and time and big organizations and experts and editors and all this kind of stuff. But it's also going to involve small people and small organizations like Trans Safety Network and small people like you listening who might be able to contribute to something to this. Because like the right wing, you know, we've all heard of the outright pipeline where they kind of like funnel people further right, but they also have like it's not just sort of politically direction left to right or center to right or whatever. They also have sort of this the whole range of everything from Fox News and Rupert Murdoch pushing out international billion-pound funded propaganda and stuff, but they also have large influencers and then medium-sized ones and then just random people writing blogs and then like the whole way down. And that's the kind of thing that we need to compete on and in all of it. So yeah, so check out Trans Safety Network if you're interested in that kind of thing. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not good at writing, but maybe I'm good at something else, I mean, maybe not Trans Safety Network, but maybe Trans Safety Network wants a graphic designer. Maybe some other trans rights organization wants someone who is good at writing freedom of information requests. Maybe you're good at organizing and you can start an organization or find one like Trans Safety Network and offer your services. All this kind of stuff is very helpful. But yeah, I think that's good. So let's start with some horrible. I mean, it's like it's a horrible topic. It's not like bad trans rights news though, so you don't need to brace for anything like that. But this next section's gonna mention sexual assault of minors. So just be aware of that. But we're not going to go into any details about that. So we're just going to mention it. So this was 2 articles about 2 different people that I saw in a very quick space of time. And it just seems to be a thing. And I think that it's not just a coincidence. So here we have Minnesota anti-trans state senator arrested for soliciting a minor. An anti-trans elected officials appear to be far more likely to be a danger to minors than drag queens or transgender people. So this is on Erin in the Morning, which is run by Erin Reed, who is a great American trans journalist who covers trans rights news, which we've covered a lot on this, and this is by one of the contributors to that. But so this is about Republican State Senator Justin Eichhorn, known for authoring anti-trans legislation and proposing a bill that would classify hatred of Donald Trump as a mental illness, was arrested for illegally attempting to solicit sex from a minor. So it sounds like he was trying to have sex with someone who's a child, and then it turned out that he was talking to the police force, and they've arrested him. He is married with 4 children. But the important part here is he co-sponsored SF 2531 in his state, a bill that would ban trans women from women's sports. The bill stipulates that if there is a dispute, so not even any real evidence, but just if someone disputes it, regarding a student's female sex, the student must present a physician's statement based on internal and external reproductive anatomy, naturally occurring level of testosterone, and an analysis of the student's chromosomes. Completely nonsense. He's a vocal supporter of anti-trans advocate Riley Gaines, backing her activism and the bill's invasive requirements as necessary to save women's sports. So this is a guy who's like famous for being anti-trans and demanding that young girls get are like forced to have internal reproductive anatomy tests just to play sport, which is disgusting. Demanding chromosome tests is ridiculous. Like, who's paying for this? If you just get accused of being trans or being intersex, then you have to be examined internally. Like, so that's going to put off so many girls from wanting to do sports, and it's going to encourage creeps like this guy who clearly have no sense of boundaries on what is acceptable in terms of relationships and sex to take advantage of that. And like, it's this kind of guy who is the exact kind of person that shouldn't be in charge of anything like this, or shouldn't be anywhere near anything like this, because he's completely incapable of understanding where the boundaries are. But it wasn't just this guy. Like, straight away, I can't remember which order I read these in, but like within the same day, I saw another article, and this one is from the Friendly Atheist, who I also recommend you should check out. It says megachurch founder Robert Morris indicted on charges of lewd acts with a child. This one's like really disgusting. So Robert Morris, the megachurch pastor, uses reputation to help Donald Trump get elected, has now been indicted on 5 counts of lewd or indecent acts to a child. It comes after he admitted last year that he sexually abused a child for a few years, beginning when she was only 12. This made me retch, this next part. He was in his 20s at the time of the attacks. Morris later downplayed the severity of what he did by referring to it merely as inappropriate sexual behavior with a young lady. Ugh, disgusting. But yeah, so the Friendly Atheist here is highlighting his relationship to like why he's even relevant. Like, in the US, you have these like crazy mega churches which have massive congregations, and they have a lot of like cultural and financial and political power, because they're almost sometimes like cult leaders, and what they say is just fact and taken on board by their communities. And obviously he supported Trump, and he was picked by Trump. It says here, Trump released a list of evangelical executive advisory board members, which included some very famous ones like Jerry Falwell, and it also included this guy. He's the sort of person who claims his prayers can cure women's infertility, and it's scientifically impossible to be an atheist. He also claims trans people are a threat to children. What a surprise. In 2017, he was tapped by Greg Abbott to oppose the so-called bathroom bill that sought to ban that sought to ban trans people from using the preferred bathroom. in part by arguing that it would allow children to be sexually abused. So, and here he is with Donald Trump. So, look, there's two examples straight away in a row of Republicans who are like vocally pro-Trump and are important within the movement, like an elected senator and this guy who's appearing at like Trump signings and getting picked from him on a hand list, who are like famous for pushing anti-trans and of course anti-women's rights positions, who have then found to be themselves sexual abusers of children. And in this kind of thing, like, it's very easy to just look at two examples and say, this is data, this is a pattern, and that would be a false conclusion. This is just two anecdotes. However, it is two anecdotes of very similar things in quick succession when they already have a reputation for this kind of thing. But I'm not really trying to make a data like a statistical argument here. I'm not saying that like statistically I can back up the claim Republican men are more likely to be sexual predators of children or something like that. That may be true. I just currently am not making that argument. But what the argument that I am going to make is that it's not unrelated that these disgusting men in charge of things are also very pro-Trump stuff and very openly anti-trans, particularly when talking about kids. A large part of like the reason that we see this anti-trans movement is because firstly, trans people are a threat to patriarchy, and us just existing challenges this hierarchy system of men on top, women on the bottom, no one else exists. In a way that also gay people do, and that's why all LGBT people end up getting lumped together, because we're all hated by the same people for the same things, and that is we challenge the social order and the system by existing. Or we don't challenge the social order as it really is today, we challenge the idea of what the social order should be of authoritarians. And maintaining patriarchy is like a key part of authoritarianism, misogyny and homophobia and transphobia. So that's like an important part. And another important part is transphobia is currently a good clickbait outrage generator thing. It's the current moral panic going on, and it's very easy for them to latch onto this kind of person. So it's going to already attract the kind of person who highly values authoritarian control. They highly value like gender hierarchy, where they think men are more important than women, and there should be this kind of like strong man billionaires on top, and then the weak man underneath, and then women underneath them, and then, you know, the social hierarchies that like far right people believe in. And it also attracts the kind of person with like absolutely no morals, and the kind of person who thinks it's okay to like demand genital checks of young girls because they're fucking creeps. And like all of these things add up, and you've seen so many times when like some loser celebrity dickhead man gets accused of sexually assaulting a woman, their best route to like recover their reputation is to become right wing and say they're being cancelled and that they're being attacked by the woke mob or whatever. And the quickest way to signal that you're part of that group without facing any real pushback at all, like the freest way that you can get in on that, is to be transphobic. Like, in today's climate, attacking trans people is like the easiest thing. There's like 5 arguments that they all just repeat. Every single of the like richest, most powerful, evil people on earth supports you already. The media isn't going to challenge you on it. what are trans people going to do? You're going to face no backlash. You won't lose your job. There'll be no like social pressure on you at all. And it allows you to now create a distraction by, you know, people call you out and there'll be some drama and blah. But it can give them like this kind of distraction cover, but also because of the way that the anti-trans movement has tried to frame like hating trans people as protecting women and children, it allows these like fucking creeps to like create a shield. Like there's this whole pre-created set of excuses and like this shield that's created for them that they can just pick up, which is, I can't be a misogynist, I can't be a sexual predator, I can't be a danger to children because I'm defending females' rights. I'm defending children by trying to ban trans people from sports. Look at me, everyone. I'm trying to take away trans people's rights. So you can't be suspicious of me because I'm a good man who like really cares about women or whatever. And like that's what the gender critical, anti-trans, anti-gender, whatever movement has done, is it's created this like cultural understanding that if you're attacking trans people, you can say that actually you're defending women or you're defending girls or you're whatever. So it isn't just a coincidence that, you know, these two guys all met. Like often this comes out. I mean, Donald Trump himself is an example of this to some extent. He is like a convicted rapist, sexual assaulter, and he's like loudly anti-trans and will say things like, oh, he loves women and he, you know, he wants to defend women and stuff. And like he just signed this anti-trans bill which had a bunch of gender criticals calling him a feminist hero. Because people like him know that if they just do some fake signal, like this is what virtue signaling, which the like right-wing people love to accuse other people of. Like that's it. It's like some people call it vice signaling. It's like virtue signaling from the other way round, where it's not actually a virtue to hate trans people, but it is to the people they're appealing to. When they hate on a trans person, they're saying, look at me, everyone. I care about women. I care about girls. So I can't be a bad person. And the people who have bought into this idea that hating trans people is pro-women now have their defenses down, and they're more likely to let these disgusting people into positions of power over women and girls. So yeah, we're going to see more of these. We've already seen a load of them. Like this Friendly Atheist article started off actually with today in hashtag not a drag queen, and that is like a hashtag. I mean, you know, Twitter's dead, unfortunately, and I don't know how much of it will be on Blue Sky yet, but certainly for a while on Twitter, hashtag not a drag queen was a thing, and it just like constantly at every level, from like these huge people like this fucking loser and the Republican senator, all the way down to like local pastors and stuff. So often it's, oh, look, right-wing man who values hierarchies and power over women and wants to control women's bodies and also thinks it's okay to demand internal genital inspections in the name of defending girls' sports, turned out to be a fucking creep. Like, who would have known? And that's not to say all of the vocal transphobic men are necessarily sexual predators or have committed crimes against women and girls. And it's not to say that all predators are right-wing men or whatever. But I'd be shocked if we got the data up if there wasn't a strong correlation there, because it's like the two things encourage each other. If you're a sexual predator, then you might as well be transphobic because it will give you some defense. And if you're transphobic, you already believe in gender hierarchies, and so you're going to be more led towards thinking that women and girls' boundaries and bodies aren't their own and don't matter, and will try and take advantage of that. Grim. I hope that was a good explanation and wasn't too dark and horrible stuff. someone saying that they read the word females in a Ferengi voice. Yeah, I I kind of feel bad for. I mean, maybe he's never seen it, but kind of feel bad for the guys who played the Ferengis or whatever on Star Trek. Because I mean, I haven't seen much. I mean, I've seen some Star Trek, but I do know what the Ferengis are. I know there's a guy called Quark on one of them, or Quark, and like part of the Ferengis thing is they're like a bit conservative and backwards, and they value money, and also they seem to think that women are property. I mean, maybe the whole point is that they're like a parody of Republicans. But maybe I'm just saying something really obvious here, but they've got this thing where when they talk about the women of their species, they say females. And that, when you're talking to gender criticals, that is what they say all the time, and it does kind of remind you of it. And it kind of makes me feel sorry for them, because they probably, you know, these actors came up with this idea to go along with these like sexist aliens and said it, and it was probably a good parody now. And now everyone every time like J.K. Rowling talks, someone says, like, posts a picture of this poor actor guy dressed up as an alien saying females. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, so let's now talk about. Right, yeah, I wanted to do a rant. We're gonna do a little standalone rant section here, and I'd love to hear from what chat has to say as well. But there was a discussion today on Blue Sky amongst a bunch of mainly trans women here, which got onto healthcare, and it reminded me of something. So we were talking about grim stuff that you get asked when trying to get healthcare for transition. And if you haven't personally gone through this process, or you live somewhere that has like informed consent, or you just were able to find a good doctor straight away, or you did things DIY, you might not know how ridiculous it is. And I wanted to share this like brief summary of what we're talking about, and then this like nightmare scenario I had, and why maybe even the clickbait like summary of this section is why I kind of like do recommend lying to doctors, which sounds really bad, so just bear with me for the justification. But one of the things that people were talking about, so here Typewriter Monkey, who's someone from Norway, saying just talking about what Norway has going on, and saying it's the same kind of people who say asking questions about how you masturbated as a teenager. And then here it's Poppy, Sarah, Sister Sarah, Goat Sarah, whatever, here saying nobody's ever asked me that, but if they would, I'd tell them what I was thinking about your mum. And then it reminded me of the actual first question that I was asked by any doctor, any medical professional, when I asked to be referred to the gender clinic. I said I was quite nervous, and I walked in to the doctor, and it was this nice old man, and I was like, I think I might be trans, and I would like you to refer me to the gender identity clinic service in the NHS. And I had like a piece of paper, I'd written out my little thing, and he was like, oh, do you have sex with men or women? I was like, I was so not ready for that to be the first question. I was like, oh, what? Why is that relevant? And it, like, he asked a few more weird questions, and then he was just like, oh, I don't know anything about this at all. What do I do? And luckily I'd like prepared, and I was like, oh, you need to go on their website and you can send a referral here. But it like really caught me off guard. It like seems weirdly intrusive, and like, what's the point of that? But also, when I then got to the gender clinic years later, because they completely waste your time on purpose, waste a load of the public's money on pointless gatekeeping, which doesn't need to be there at all. The gender identity clinic doctors asked me like what I'm attracted to, what I think of when I masturbate. Do I masturbate? Who do I have sex with? What kind of sex I have? Like all of this kind of weird, intrusive, personal questions. Um, they're just completely irrelevant. Like none of this actually matters. If you were like, you could have questions if you were going for genital surgery, like what kind of sex do you have, or what kind of sex are you expecting to have after genital surgery, because we just want to make sure things are going to change. But obviously, like you should know that already when you're. Anyway, there's no real justification for this apart from they are looking for excuses to hold you, or like come up with a reason to deny you healthcare. It's not like, oh, here's the list of criteria and we'll see what the best treatment for you is based on, your answers to these things. It's, we are looking for something where you might say something that we're not expecting or isn't on our like tick list of ideal things, and we can use that as an excuse to take healthcare away from you or to ban you from this or whatever. And you might think, oh, Kate, you're just like a crazy trans activist, you're just lying about this. Or I have some of my close friends, and I have a personal story relating to this. Some of my close friends have similar stories where, for example, I know actually two women who went in for one of their appointments to the gender clinic, just wearing casual clothes, and they just happened to pick like jeans and a t-shirt, which I don't know if you've ever been outside, but like some cis women wear jeans and a t-shirt, and both of these women who are my friends, who I trust, said that it was commented on that they either were like, why did you not dress properly? Are you not putting any effort? Do you not really want to transition? And basically that whole appointment was wasted. They were expecting to get prescribed that time, and they were told basically, you're not trying hard enough, go away and come back in 6 months, because they always like put months and months between all these appointments for absolutely no reason. And like in this kind of situation, that there's no reason for that. There's no like justification. There's no like evidence to say that trans women who like wearing jeans more than they like wearing a skirt are less likely to benefit from medical transition, or they're more likely to be a danger to society or anything like that. It's literally just a purity test. It's them looking for an excuse to hold you back and deny you healthcare. And it's the same with these questions about your sex life. I, at the time that they were asking me these questions, I really trusted doctors because, when I grew up, back in my day, when things were good, the NHS actually worked, and I had a few medical problems growing up. I have asthma, and I've had like pneumonia before, and like had like some cyst. Anyway, that sounds really grim. I had a cyst on my neck cut out. Anyway, I'd interacted with doctors a few times, but always as like a middle class, able-bodied white person. So it always went really well for me. I just like blindly trusted doctors, that they were people in society who always had my best interest at heart. And that's a view that I held even when I was going to these gender identity clinic things, because I was scared about transition. I really, I wanted to know it was the right thing for me. I wanted to tell them all the stuff and them to actually diagnose me, because that's what I believed was the situation that they were trying to do. So I was quite honest about it. And when they asked about my sex life and my masturbation habits and stuff, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'm quite boring and vanilla in that sense. And there would be nothing that I could say that would be shocking or it could ever give them an excuse to hold me back. But I can certainly imagine that there are things you could say which, not like, if you said like, oh, I'm actually the leader of a mega church and I sexually assaulted a 12-year-old, like this relating to our last segment that we covered. But no, if you said something like that, whatever. But it's more that I think if you said that you had an interesting sex life in a way that is true for a decent number of cis people, not some specific trans thing, it will give them an excuse to like hold you back or be suspicious of whether you're really trans, or just waste a load of time asking loads more questions about it. Like, it's not actually in the diagnosis criteria. What type of sex you enjoy is, or like what you think of when you masturbate, it's not actually relevant to whether trans healthcare is good for you. But I do have another example of when it personally affected me, when I did then realize that, like, I guess I was suspicious when they're asking me all these weird questions. I was like, I know that this is like just sexist. It's just prejudice. Why are you saying, like, they were asking questions about like, my fashion choices and stuff as well. Like, oh, why have you chosen to wear that and stuff? And like, because I thought it looked nice. Like, why have you chosen to wear that, you fucking dickhead? Like, what is this? What is this related? Or it was already making me suspicious, but I was still believing that overall the doctors had my best interest at heart, and all of the professionals in this, you know, in this thing. And when you or at least when I was there, when you start, you get like assigned a therapist basically, and it's someone who you can allegedly talk to any point. But you're also like mandated, you have to see them a certain amount of times, so you have to like book in the next appointment. And I was having to take days off work and spend money to get to this place to talk to this therapist, as well as to see the doctor separately. And it was always, I mean, not entirely a waste of time. I had already seen a therapist privately about trans stuff, so most of the like transition related stuff wasn't stressing me out anymore. But sometimes there would be some horrible politics stuff, and I benefited, I feel, from talking to a therapist. And I just thought it was like a normal therapist that the NHS just provided, and that seems like a good idea. But then I booked in to have face surgery as part of my transition privately. Okay, nothing to do with the NHS, not even in the UK. I spent my own money on it, like my life savings, and I booked it in for some time in advance. I think between having a consultation and then actually going for surgery was like a full year, and I like paid the money and like booked in this date, and I was like crazy nervous about it, like terrified. I had never had any surgeries before. I was really terrified of the anesthetic, and like being unconscious or like dying on the operating table, like all of the standard surgery fears, I'm sure. But like particularly terrified. Like I was having nightmares about it and all kinds of stuff. Turns out it's actually fine. And yeah, after having one surgery, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not scared of this anymore. Like the ultimate exposure therapy. I was absolutely fucking terrified in the first one. And the second one, I was just like, be all right. Even though it was way more intense. Anyway, as it was coming up to this surgery date, and it was just like 1 month away or something, and I had to like book all the flights and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I was just terrified, and it was like one of the main things on my mind. And I told the therapist, who I'd seen every couple of months, and she asked like, oh, how are you doing? And I was like, I was really terrified. Like I was like, I feel terrified, and I'm worried that I won't be able to go through with it. I didn't actually say like, oh, you know, I think I won't go through with it or anything. But I was like, I'm worried that I won't be able to because I'm so scared of it. And like, I've spent my life savings on this, and I've like got my friends and family all booked to come out and support me, and I've like booked this place to stay, and I couldn't back on it. I couldn't go back on it now. But I'm worried, you know, there's just the fear I have, and that was like how I explained it. Anyway, this is to do with, again, a private face surgery. Facial surgery isn't like a required part of transition, and it's not something that most people can even afford. Like, I was very fortunate to be in the position where I could. Anyway, I told this therapist in confidence, because therapists, at least all the therapists I've ever interacted with in my life, which a few, have always had this clause of like, I will keep everything you say private unless I'm worried that you'll hurt yourself or other people. And there was absolutely no indication of that at all. I never felt or said anything as much. Like, I was never like, I'm so scared of this surgery that I might hurt myself. Not even like a thing that passed my mind at all, or would have mentioned. I was just like, what happens if I get to the day of the surgery and I wake up and then I just like lock myself in the toilet? Like that was the kind of thing I was worried about happening, and that's the kind of thing I said to it. Always reminded me of that like Simpsons episode where Grandpa Simpson needs a new kidney and Homer's gonna donate the kidney, and then they're like, thanks for being so brave, Homer, and they like turn around and the window's open and he's just running off into the distance. Like that's what I kept thinking. Like, what if I do that? Didn't do that at all. It was fine. But anyway, I said that to the therapist, and I expected that was that. Like, she would just keep it to herself. Some short time later, like lightning fast speed by the gender identity clinic's time frame, maybe like a week later or something, the doctor rang me, which he'd never done before. Usually I had to, find time for appointments, and like it was usually a total faff, and everything's on a scale of months. And then suddenly this guy's ringing me like a week later, while I'm at work. I was lucky I could pick up, and he was just like, "Oh, Katie, I hear that you're thinking of detransitioning, and I was wondering, should I stop your medication then?" And I was like, "What?" I remember being like at my work, sometimes when you get a phone call, you don't, because it's like an open plan office, you don't just want to like take it there because you're sitting next to people. So sometimes you like get up and go and find like there's some like small rooms to have small meetings in and stuff, so you can do a phone call. I remember like walking along, like trying to find one, and just being like, "What?" I didn't even know what to say. Like, where the fuck has this come from? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, where have you got this idea from? And he was like, "Oh, this person." I was gonna say her name then. I won't for now. Your therapist told me that you were thinking of detransitioning. I was like, "No, I didn't say that. I'm not considering that. Like, I've got a surgery booked in for like 3 weeks. Like, what are you talking about? I do not want you to stop my medication." He was like, "Oh, okay then." And it's like, that was it. And I was really scared that they were still gonna stop my, and like, because I'd been on like HRT with a private organization for like a year before I got into the NHS, and then moved over to the NHS. And I was like, I don't want you to stop like my access to hormones now. Like crazy. Like I'd been out on transition for like 2 years at that point or something. Just I was scared they were going to do it. I like sent them a letter or something, and making sure that they weren't going to. But then I have to book in with it. Like if this was a therapist I was free to fire or whatever anytime, I would have never talked to her again. Like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? Like, she lied. She just lied about me. Like totally a lie. But I'm like required to see her for the whole process because I was hoping to get like another surgery on the NHS. So I had to go along with this GIC thing for who knows how much longer. And then like, so the next time I saw her, which was probably like after face surgery, maybe, or maybe just before, she was like, "How's everything going?" I was like, I just thought, like, I can't tell you. There's you anything I say, you could just lie about me and use it to try and like take away my healthcare. Like, what if you're willing to try and take away my healthcare for like lying about something, then what else are you willing to do? Like, to lie that I'm crazy, or to lie that like I shouldn't have rights, or like, who knows? Like, what? Like, you place a lot of trust in a therapist, and I just instantly had no trust, so I just lied to her. I don't know how many times more I had to see her, like a handful of times, up to 5 or something. I just totally, to her face, I don't like, almost, I don't like lying. Like, for me, part of the best thing about coming out was that I no longer had to have a secret, and I no longer had to lie to anyone. And I'm sure if you follow me on any internet stuff, I'm a loudmouth who's not very good at keeping anything secret. I just lied to her, and I think that was the correct thing to do. Like, I don't have any regrets for that. I regret being gullible enough to think that she had my best interests at heart. I regret trusting the doctors to do the right thing, and giving them, like, not just dancing the dance. Like, and after that, when they eventually, so the system is you get discharged once you've had all of the referrals and recommendations and all this kind of stuff. So discharge doesn't mean like you're not fit to be their patient anymore or anything. It literally means, right, you got to the end, you've done all the things, so now you can just go off into the world and you don't need their help anymore. After they discharged me, I went to a GP and carried on my hormones as normal, and that was fine. And then I moved house and I found a new GP and I asked them to repeat my prescription. I've talked about it in the show before, but they just said no. They're just like, we're not going to repeat your prescription. And I had to do like a middle-class white woman and refuse to leave until they did it. But then, like, I just realized that there are just doctors and therapists and people out there who are like part of the gender identity clinic system, who are literally there to try and cause you like harm, basically, to try and I don't like saying to try and slow you down, but I don't know how else to describe it, or to like hold you back. But that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to prevent transition from happening. They're trying to find excuses to deny you trans healthcare. Like, that's what gatekeeping is. It's not about, oh, we need to make sure we only give people who need it the treatment or anything. It's not like, you know, you've got some condition, and if we give you this medicine, then it'll make your life better. But if you don't have this condition and we give you the medicine, it'll make your life worse. I mean, that is ideally how it should be, but that isn't the reality, at least of the NHS England's gender identity clinics. They're not trying to do what's best for people. They're trying to prevent transition. They're trying to create not just hurdles. It's not like, oh yeah, well, once you jump this high, we'll let you do it. It's like, oh, we're going to put in as many hurdles as we can until you fall down. Like, we're going to see if we can make you fall down. We're going to like stick our foot out and try and trip you up, just with the goal of trying to trip some people up. So I think if you feel like you have to work out if you can trust, you know, every doctor or therapist you interact with. And that is really hard, because obviously, like, the gender critical ones are going to lie. They're going to lie to you. They'll lie to other patients. They'll lie to their employers or whatever. And they just do not have your best interests at heart. But you need to work out which ones do. But just importantly, just know that there are some who are actively trying to harm you. And they have power over you, and you've got to just get through the system. You really need to not, like, the problem with all this gatekeeping stuff and all these arbitrary things. If I needed a therapist and I couldn't afford one, and the NHS provided me one, that could be really beneficial to my life. If I then find out that she's lying to try and like harm me, and I can't trust her, that's like made my life worse. It's just taken away a vital resource that I'd need. But also, now I feel like I'm forced to lie, which is a bad thing. And now, if I actually needed the support and I wasn't sure if I was trans, or I wasn't sure if I wanted a certain treatment or something, now I'm in a position where I have no support, and I know that if I don't lie, I will get nothing. So then they're encouraging people to lie and to not be honest with even themselves. And this is exactly how you end up with high detransition rates, like high regret rates, at least. Like, I know one lady who I was talking to, and she didn't ever want genital surgery, but literally had to sign up to it, because when she transitioned in the 80s or something, it was like, if you're not someone who wants genital surgery, then we won't give you any hormones. And she had it, and she like regrets it, and she's still like a trans woman, She just didn't want genital surgery, and she feels like she had to lie, to get genital surgery that she didn't even want in order to get every other part of trans healthcare. And that is an example of someone who regrets a part of their transition, though not the whole thing. And that wouldn't be a position that she was in if there wasn't a system set up to gatekeep people. And like, you know, I'm fortunate that I worked out what I needed with the help of a private therapist and my friends and family and stuff, and I was capable of doing all the research, and I understood what all the things were. And like, you know, I'm in a very fortunate position. Not everyone else is. There will be people who aren't sure and who will go and they will have this NHS therapist who is meant to be helping them through the decision, or a doctor who's meant to be prescribing them, and they'll realize they can't trust them. Like, I'm not like some genius here. I was an idiot. It took me a long time to realize I can't trust them. I was overly trusting. People work out that they can't trust them. Like, it's like common knowledge amongst trans women, at least in the UK, that you just can't trust the gender identity clinic people, and you have to like dress a certain way and say certain things to get taken seriously. It's almost like a guide on how to act stereotypically 1950s feminine in order to get help. And if that's the case, then people who aren't sure, who need the support, won't get it. They'll have to lie to be taken seriously at all, and they'll be the ones who are more likely to be in a position where they regret transition. So the whole system is a fucking joke. Like, the gender identity clinics should be shut down, and it should just be the same as everything else. They don't need specialist stuff. Where specialists are needed. So this is quite a long rant, but where specialists are needed for trans healthcare is things like you can't just have any old surgeon do genital surgery. Like, you need a specialist. You need someone who knows what they're doing, who's like, that's their thing. But for prescribing hormones, why, like, the doctors I saw weren't specialists in that at all. They didn't even look at my levels or anything. They were just there to ask me how I masturbate and ask me whether I'm detransitioning because I'm scared of surgery. Like, then just complete waste of money and time. They're bad for trans people. There's no reason why your GP can't prescribe it. Yeah, the whole system is just bullshit. And like, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, it's crazy activist, whatever, my story is not rare. Like, my specific one might be different to other people's specific ones, but like, this thread that caused me to think of this, like, it's just full of trans people saying they've encountered similar things, or their friends have encountered similar things. It's like common knowledge. And it's not just trans people either. Like, one of my close friends is disabled in like later life, and she like had a physical disability, and the first doctor she saw just said that she was like, literally just said she was delusional, and like banned her from getting treatment. And it took like a whole year of battling with other doctors in order to reverse that initial thing, and now gets treatment, and it's really beneficial. Like, I've talked to a few disabled people who've had similar things. If you are in the category that I used to be in, of like middle-class white cis man appearing person who has like conditions like asthma or a cyst on their neck, you might well never experience anything like this, and you will have blind trust in doctors, and you listen to me saying this and you'll be like, this sounds crazy. This can't be true. And I assure you, I believed that until it happened to me and my friends and the entire community countless times, and like another community who's also marginalized. And now I just know, like, it's just bullshit. I don't know if it's most or just some, but certainly a large portion of certainly the trans healthcare gender identity clinic pathway do not have your best interest in heart. I do not trust them at all. And now every time I interact with a doctor, I'm worried that they are potentially someone who is like politically opposed to me existing, or at the very least has such negative stereotypes about what a trans person is. They need to ask things like what I find sexually attractive before they'll treat me. So anyway, end of my story. That's why. Yeah, that's why. That's it. I don't know if anyone in chat has had anything like that. How do one specialize in transitions? Is this a verified field that can be studied? How can you become certified? I mean, yeah, you can certainly become an expert in trans issues. You could, I mean, there are people who do studies on trans people and people who don't do studies on trans people, and people who do load of studies are more likely to have expertise. If you read all of the medical literature and invade and invest. What am I trying to say? Get involved. That's it. If you get involved with the like clinical discussions and talk with other experts, like there's an organization called WPATH. They specialize in trans people's healthcare. It's certainly it's a field. My private doctor tried to deny me HRT as I was high risk for blood clots, so I had to go to a blood specialist to sign off. Yeah, I mean I've heard that before, like trans broken arm syndrome stuff, where they're like, oh, you once smoked, or oh, you're overweight. Well, no, I can't give you any trans healthcare then, because there's like a 0.3% increased rate of whatever, not to the point where it's like, oh yeah, if I give you this medicine, you'll die within a week. Like, obviously, if that was the case, then the doctor's saying the right thing. But it's more like they just have a general worry about it, and they don't really see trans healthcare as important. So they're just like, nah, we're not going to give you this. Trans people often have to shop around for doctors who are gonna actually care about them and take them seriously. I live in France, and here we have some community-led database websites and maps aimed at showing which doctors suck and which don't. Yeah, I mean, I have heard of that. It's quite a difficult thing to do because you can't ever do that officially, or they can sue you, at least in the UK. They asked me how long I've been cross-dressing, and I said, what counts as cross-dressing? And they didn't answer and moved on. Well, hopefully they didn't write down on your notes, like, argumentative, not very male, or not very female, or whatever, and then use that as an excuse to deny you healthcare. Yeah, it's just, like, such a derogatory, uninformed question to ask. Like, if you said, like, you can ask a question like that in an informed way, like, oh, how long have you experienced gender dysphoria? Have you done anything about that, and for how long? You know, like, have you presented differently at any point in your life, and what have you done? Or, you know, that, how long you been cross-dressing? It's just like, God, are you from like the 50s? Like, what's going on? My NHS GP literally said that he thought that HRT would make an arm grow out of my head. What? Yeah. Oh, I don't blame you. I'm scared that my doctor is LGBT friendly, but the amount of misgendering is chronic. Yeah, I don't know. Some people, when they haven't encountered many trans people, don't think misgendering is that big a deal. And sometimes you just need to be like, I'm sorry, I've given you enough time now, but I really think you should be getting this right. And I think that it's like derogatory that you don't. Please do better. Like, you need to like say one stern thing to them, and sometimes it like panics them into action. Anyway, we got some more things to cover. So what is the next thing we're going to talk about? We'll talk about this. So, the president of the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, addressed the gender controversy surrounding Imane Khelif and Lin Yuting. So you might remember last year there was some Olympic stuff, and there was a couple of cis female athletes who J.K. Rowling, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, and the entire right-wing shithead internet hate movement decided were men based on absolutely no evidence at all, and then tried to ruin their lives and wrote all these disgusting things about them. Like the Olympic Committee or Commission, I should look up what it stands for. IOC committee. I thought it was committee. The Olympic committee is not known for being great, but at least under the leadership of this guy has, to some degree, stood by these two innocent, and also, just to emphasize again, cis women who were targeted by people like J.K. Rowling. And yeah, so this guy has spoken out, and he's said, like the headline here is, Paris 2024 gender row was fake news from Russia. So according to the IOC, the controversy surrounding the boxers was caused by a disinformation campaign possibly attributed to the Russian government. However, this has not been proven. Thomas Bach, the president, who will step down in June, from what I hear, potentially to be replaced by someone significantly more transphobic, so we could see this kind of thing not be pushed back on in future, or even supported by the IOC. So we'll see. Described the gender row as fake news campaign orchestrated from Russia and said it has no basis in reality. The controversy arose after the IBA, led by Russian businessmen, accused the IOC of allowing the participation of those two boxers, both of whom had previously been banned by the IBA due to alleged chromosomal test results. According to them, the tests did exist but could not be made public due to legal challenges. So, which doesn't really make any sense. It's like, okay, we have the data and we can't show you it because of legal challenges, but we can tell you the results despite legal challenges. Like, I don't think that stands up. But there's no actual evidence they have for that. And also, like, separately, just if they had a Y chromosome, for example, that wouldn't on its own disqualify them from being women, or being cis women, or being allowed to compete in sports, or being allowed to go to the Olympics. Chromosome alone doesn't do that. Bach defended the IOC stance, pointing out that Khelif and Yuting had competed in previous events, including the 2020 Olympics, without any problems. These women were born and raised as women. They competed as women. They won and lost like any other human being. The conflict escalated. Escalated because of disgusting losers like J.K. Rowling writing horrible things about these two women who are just quite good at their sport, who did nothing to deserve this at all. He insisted these situations were not indicative of a real crisis, but rather part of a coordinated disinformation strategy. I would not consider this, the dispute, a real crisis, because this whole discussion is based on a fake news campaign coming from Russia. So that's quite strong words. But we also heard some more from Imane Khelif this week, actually. There's a few clips here, and I just thought we could look at or listen to what she's saying, and like comment on it, basically. Zoom in more. Yeah. Okay. So there's like, I think 3 clips here, so we'll just listen to these first.
الأم تاعي كذلك اللي تأثرت كانت تقريبا كل يوم في المستشفى. كل أقاربي كذلك تأثروا، حتى كل الشعب الجزائري تأثر بالآخر، لأنه القضية ما ولش قضية رياضية أو لعبة، ولا تجاوزت الحدود وين أصبحت حملة إعلامية كبيرة.
So there was a big impact on your family and friends as well.
Of course, yes. Too much.
Difficult.
Yes, it's very difficult.
Like, she is incredibly strong to deal with this. Like, she's saying there that her mother had to go to hospital from the stress, and it affected her friends and family, and it was too much. Like, she was at the center of this, like, international right-wing anti-trans hate campaign. Not even as a trans person, just totally unfortunate to be this random woman they picked on. Yeah, like completely unjustified. Anyway, we have a couple more clips.
Did it spoil the experience for you?
بدون شيء موثق يتحدثوا بس لا يتحدثوا حتى رانا نشوفوا مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي انه الناس تهدر بدون كيف يقولوا بديزانفورماسيون يعني هذا الشيء اللي أثر عليا في البداية.
Yeah, so as she says, like it's not actually based on anything. There's no actual information or data that any of these fucking freaks have got. It's not like, I mean, if there was actually something saying that she had a Y chromosome, then that would be some data to base some kind of argument on, though it would still be a rubbish argument because some cis women have a Y chromosome. Some cis women who have given birth have a Y chromosome. And so therefore, like, why should they be excluded from women's sports? On what grounds? Some women, it's just part of the variety of women. Like, some women are born without ovaries. Should they be banned from sports? No. Why? For what reason? What possible justification is that? Some women are born without hair. Should they be banned from women's sports? No. Like, people are just different. There's just a wide range of just different things that people are. Some women who are born girls with all of the other bits you would expect from women and girls, on average, like the typical woman and girl will grow up, maybe even start her own family, and then it'll find out that she has a Y chromosome. And so what? Does that mean she should be banned from sports? No, there's literally no reasoning behind that at all, apart from some stupid, ridiculous way about how you think the world should work and how biology should be, even though it's not. But anyway, she does address the thing on like trans stuff.
Your dream would be to win Olympic gold.
The second gold medal, of course.
A second gold medal in America.
In America, Los Angeles.
Donald Trump has not been very polite to you. Does that concern you?
بالنسبة لهذا الشيء يعني راح نجاوبك بسؤال واحد. يعني رئيس الأمريكي هو دار قرار، هذا قرار يخص الدولة الأمريكية، ولكن أنا حبيت نوضح أنه أنا مانيش متحول جنسي، يعني ما يخوفني ولا شيء، لأنه أنا الحقيقة مانيش متحول جنسي فقط.
So there's two parts to this, and I think maybe some of you might be like, critical support or whatever the phrase is. So there's two parts to this. And the first part that I think is easy to address is she said she is not intimidated by Donald Trump's attacks on her, and she plans to go to Los Angeles Olympics and win. So for that, she is a legend. I'm amazed at the strength she has, and I think it's like incredible that she's managed to get up despite all of this like horror from around the world, people writing absolutely disgusting things about her. I just keep thinking of that thing where J.K. Rowling, like, there was a picture of Imane winning one of her rounds, and J.K. Rowling's like, that's the smug smile of a man who knows he can abuse women or something for sport or something. Like, fucking pathetic. She's literally just a girl who grew up to be a woman, who was born maybe slightly different, maybe not even slightly different. There's no actual evidence that you're basing this on, just other than vibes. That, yeah, and then just trying to ruin her life over it. So good for her for standing up to that and attempting to go to the Olympics again. On the other part of her statement, it to me seems very much like she has some advice, like legal advice or PR advice or something, to not take a political position. And that is probably beneficial for her chances of competing again, being able to go to the USA, even getting a visa. She's just said, these laws are about trans people. I'm not a trans person, so I'm going to go. And you might be feeling disappointed that she hasn't stood up for trans people or said, Donald Trump's a fascist, or you know, it wouldn't matter if I was trans or not, I should be still able to compete or something. And you're right to some degree. That is something I feel. Like, I know she said before, like, one of her first things was like, but I'm not trans, why are you picking on me? And that kind of feels like, do you think it'd be okay to pick on you if you were trans? But I don't think she's necessarily saying that. You've got to remember she's in a like crazy impossible position here, where there's this like irrational hate mob led by some of the most vocal, popular, rich, powerful people on earth, directed completely at her. In a country where being trans is absolutely not safe at all. And she's trying to not crumble. Personally, she's trying not to have her family be harmed, and she's trying not to give in to it all, and she's trying to progress. Like, she's trying to do what she loves to do, which is play sport. She could easily also be like, I'm not trans, it's a horrible accusation, trans people are disgusting, and Donald Trump is right to try and ban them, and I fully support the president in trying to defend women's sports. So she could have said that too, and she didn't. To me, it feels like she's trying to walk the line, and you might be critical of the exact way she's chosen to do that, or even the idea that her trying to choose her career over supporting trans people's rights vocally is negative or whatever. I think that's fine to disagree on that and to have a different view and think she should have done something different. But I don't think you can say she's an anti-trans activist or she's being transphobic or like she's a TERF or whatever. I think you need to remember the context that this all sits in. Is an incredibly difficult position. And I think that if she is able to return, like, who knows if they'll fucking give her a visa. If she's able to return and win the next competition, despite this huge backlash, and like stand strong and be not intimidated, like she says, I think that's good for trans people, intersex people, and women who are just good at boxing. Like, who knows if she's intersex or not. But I think it's a good that would be a positive thing overall. I hope she gets in and I hope she wins. Or the other lady who was also targeted. One or both of them. Maybe they can get top 2. That'd be good. Because it's just like a fuck you to all these like horrific people who've been trying to ruin her life over nothing. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm someone in chat saying she's a warrior. I agree. I think that it's good for all women, exactly. Like she is atypical at the very least because she's very good at boxing. And to be part of women's boxing already is like frowned on by society. I personally don't like boxing. If they banned boxing worldwide for everyone, then I wouldn't really care. But I know some people like boxing, and I don't actually want that to happen. But certainly women's boxing isn't encouraged in the way that men's boxing is, and it's kind of seen as like a man's sport. And if that's the thing that she loves, like that's her passion, then it's incredible that she's able to be like, that she's been put in a position now where she's like a role model. And there will be a bunch of girls who maybe aren't interested in any other sports, but for some reason really like boxing. And they're like, wow, look at this strong lady who's fucking good at her sport, but also has had all of these horrible abuse things thrown at her and has just got up and just done it and won again. Like, that would be incredible. So I don't think critical support is the right word. Like, I think there may be a better theoretical position that she could have taken, or a theoretical better thing she could have said, or maybe even what she did say is slightly better, but I don't speak her language and so the translation isn't good. Who knows? But I don't think that what she's done is like an obviously bad thing. I don't think that she's taking a bad position. I think at best she's taking the best position that she can with her understanding, position, pressures, everything. And maybe there's slight room for improvement or whatever. But anyway, I think it's good to see the head of the Olympics say fuck off, basically, to the disinformation. I think it's good to see her standing up to it. I hope that the new person who is voted to control the IOC isn't some J.K. Rowling, Elon Musk suck up. They could easily be. I hope that she's able to get a visa. She could easily fail to get that. Yeah, we'll see. I do have a feeling that there's going to be insane political pressure on the IOC to ban trans people now that the USA is like pro-trans genocide, basically. So, yeah, we'll see. Right. What else have we got to cover? Let's cover a kind of funny one next, maybe. Okay. So, who is this? This is Nigel Farage, or Nigel Farage. He is the guy that caused Brexit to happen. If you don't know who he is, if you're not from the UK, if you're from the UK, you know who he is because he is on the TV every single day, and all of from left to right, everyone just for some reason loved putting him on the TV, and he was there to spew his nonsense about the European Union, lie a load of things, and then people fell for it, and we ended up leaving the European Union. Now we're fucked. But anyway, he's probably the most influential politician in British politics of my lifetime. Though technically I was alive when Margaret Thatcher was still in power, but like I'm not counting that. Actually, was I? Maybe. But anyway, he is in recent times he is the most influential politician. He's never been voted into like power. He's never led a major political party he's never been prime minister or in the cabinet or anything like that. But he was a single issue, let's leave European Union, and that happened largely because of his political pressure, or at least partly because of his political pressure and his movement and the money he's got and stuff. But now he's, since Brexit, has been in charge of various political parties. He's rebranded multiple times. And currently he is in charge of Reform UK. Reform UK are like our far-right party. They are further right than the Conservatives are already far right. Like Labour are becoming far-right. But the true far-right party, they're like trying to match the Republicans in the US kind of position. And anyway, here he is, and he's saying Mandy Clare is a former Labour councillor who left the party to campaign against transgender ideology. She has now joined Reform. And I just thought it'd be funny to cover this person. So this, like, idiot seems like someone who has no idea what they believe and who just changes with the wind and who has got suckered into this anti-trans stuff and has lost their mind. So this isn't quite true. I mean, it's true enough. She did used to be a Labour councillor, and now she doesn't like trans people, and she's now part of Reform. True, but she actually. So here is her with Posey Parker or Kelly Jakeen Minshall or whatever her name is, who's the lady who got soup poured over her for trying to do a hate movement in New Zealand. And she's also the lady who had the Sig-hailing Nazis show up to support her in Australia, and also the one who had all the weird anti-vax conspiracy theorists in London. Garbage person. You can look her up. There's a really good video on her by Sean on YouTube, if you check out his video. Anyway, this councillor, Mandy Clare, she was a Labour councillor. And then she quit Labour. And then she was re-elected to represent her area as the sort of the Earth Party in whatever election. So that's like some other party. I think it's like a left-wing party. And then she left them to join Party of Women, which was Kelly J. Keene's party, political party. Kelly J. Keene herself ran in Bristol, which is near where I live, and she got so few votes that she didn't even get you have to pay like a deposit to run, and she didn't even get that back. She got like basically no votes. They got no politicians. They got one councillor, who was Mandy Clare. I don't quite know the order of things. I don't know if she was voted in when she was Party of Women, or she was voted in when she was sort of the Earth, and then changed to Party of Women. Anyway, she was independent for a while, but now she has left Party of Women, their only councillor. She quit. Wait. She would no longer be representing the Party of Women, and then she quit to become independent. So here's the since being elected in 2009, she has represented Labour, Socialist Labour, and the Winsford Salt of the Earth before joining Party of Women, and now then she was independent, and now she's part of Reform. So she's gone through like 5 parties in 5 years, from like centre left to far left to conspiracy right to like far right, in like bell done, and now she's like standing for being a far right politician with Nigel Farage shaking his hand here, and it's funny. It's funny for a few reasons. It's funny that the only Party of Women councillor quit. So now they have absolutely nothing. So another L for Posy Parker. She just cannot stop losing. I haven't heard much from her recently, actually. She's like washed up, I guess. Yeah, so the Party of Women, like, just in case you think Party of Women is some kind of feminist party, the party's website states that it was founded to safely say that no woman has a penis, no man has a vagina, and there's no such thing as non-binary, and that transitioning children is abuse. It was a single issue anti-trans hate movement party, basically. So that's funny that party's just totally collapsed and nothing happened of it, and she's really failed really hard. It's also funny that she keeps jumping ship and doesn't seem to believe in anything, apart from hating trans people. It's funny that Nigel Farage announced it. I mean, he's quite good at his like summon his like generic smile to be with whatever. But all of the comments are like, well, some of the comments are angry about it. Like, Labour and Liberals joining Reform. It amazes me the number of supporters. You don't see what the obvious sellout by Farage. Like, all these are Twitter, so you know, it's a load of far right knobheads, but like there's a lot of people angry that she was allowed in. You don't support mass deportation, so no point in voting for you. They're all angry that she's like a communist because she was part of like a far left party. Doesn't seem like she believes in anything. But also, it's just interesting to see that, like, she was part of Labour. I mean, presumably someone like this is just wacky their whole lives and doesn't really stand for anything and jump ships all the time. But at least one point, the people in Labour thought she was credible enough to be a Labour councillor. Labour had some level of credibility 5 years ago. And then she seemed to lose her mind to transphobic conspiracy theories and is now part of Reform, who are like the anti-trans party. And it's just like, this keeps happening. We've been saying for years, because it's true, that the anti-trans movement radicalizes people to the far right. It melts their brains, they're unable to rationally think anymore, and then they join the far right. And here is an example of someone who's literally gone from supporting centre-left, like 5 years ago, Labour at least were pretending to be centre-left, and to support LGBT rights and women. And then she, like so many other people, have eaten a load of transphobic conspiracy theories, melted their brain to the point where they can't think anymore, and they've just gone to supporting the far right party. And this has happened time and time again. It's like people like J.K. Rowling are the top of the pipeline for, well, not the top, the middle of the pipeline for funneling people into the far right. And this is an example of it. And this is not the only example of it, but it is the only example of a party of women councillor doing this, because they only ever had one councillor and now they have none. So quite funny, but it's very predictable. I think that maybe to centrists or people with some concerns in 2016 or whatever, if you said the gender critical movement is radicalizing people to the far right, they were all like, oh no, that's ridiculous, you can't call someone far right just because but here we have it, and just like plain as day, it's happening now. Like, it's always been happening, but now it's just like it's so overt that we were right all along. What a surprise. Sounds like another Liz Truss. Well, yeah, I guess so. She does seem to have lasted longer than the lettuce in each of her parties that she's been in, but like 1 year each. Like Liz Truss lasted like 3 weeks or something, so she's got more sticking power than Liz Truss. But yeah, it sounds like someone who doesn't really believe anything apart from trans bad, and that's all that'll do. That's the whole ideology basically. So underneath everything is their fear of losing white privilege. I think yes, that is a factor of it. But I also think that I think race is one of the major forces, but I also think sexism is one of the major forces. I think that you can't analyze the conservative hierarchies without acknowledging race and sex, or race and gender, or sex and gender, both together. I think they're both important. White privilege is a real core value that drives lots of the, like, at least half of the Republican hatred against humanity, for example. But so is male privilege. That's just, and I don't want to say equally strong. They're both very big, major factors. And yeah, that is true. It's definitely underlying. And I think that it does inform things like Imane Khelif that we're just talking about. Obviously, attacking her for maybe allegedly being slightly biologically atypical is definitely a part of the reaction to sex power structures and wanting to keep women subordinate and hide any discussion of it not being a strict binary. But also the fact that she is not white is a key reason for why she was targeted, and why it keeps happening that the gender critical movement is picking on random women of color and trying to ruin their lives, because calling women of color men in order to remove their womanhoodness, not to give them any of the privileges of being men, but just to remove their status as women in society, is like a part of racism. But it slots in so well to being part of sexism. Yeah, they're both very important. Yeah, intersectionality, exactly. Why listen to me clumsily try and explain intersectionality when you could just read a book on it by some like expert in feminism and race politics? But maybe I can explain it in an idiot way to idiots, in the way that you might understand if you don't already understand it. Though maybe you're watching this and you're like, fucking hell, that was terrible, Katie. Anyway, let's move on to something. So yeah, let's cover this. So you've heard of go woke, go broke, and that does rhyme. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be true. Like, the phrase describes a it seems to often be about films and computer games. Like, oh, you've got a black person in your computer game, you're gonna sell nothing, and then it turns out actually they sell fine, and the amount of money they make on a game or film seems to be based on how good it is rather than whether it's got an LGBT person in or not. But I think a more true one is specifically for center-left posing politicians is go transphobic, go broke. It doesn't rhyme as well. Someone in the chat is saying go fash, no cash. But anyway, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, recently did some series of podcasts where he invited on like a bunch of fascists basically. And in the first episode, I think he had like Charlie Kirk on, who's some fascist knobhead with a really small face, who and they like bonded over how much they hate trans people. And this was obviously like some kind of strategic political move for him. Looking at the landscape in American politics, people are repositioning themselves, and at least some of the like centrists who are on the Democrat side believe that maybe if they are socially conservative, aka they think women and black people and trans people and gay people and stuff are inferior, then they might be able to win. That might be where the new like dial is, and they might be able to win the Democratic presidency if they're like, oh, okay, we also hate LGBT people, but we're not going to destroy the economy like Trump does or whatever. So at least some of them have positioned themselves in that way. Some of them are like true believers, where they believe in neoliberalism and they also believe in hating LGBT people. I doubt this guy thinks that. I doubt he really cares at all. I think he's probably just like a robot who doesn't have any real opinions. Anyway, he's obviously made a calculated political decision to hate on trans people in order to try and get votes. So how's that gone? We've got a summary here of the things mentioned in the article from Yasha Ali. Says that Gavin Newsom's favourability amongst liberals from his series of podcasts alone in a very short space of time has dropped from 46 to 30%. While some Republicans agreed with his stances, they overwhelmingly viewed him as insincere, calling him fake and pandering. His net favourability dropped from +4 to -6, a 10-point swing in the wrong direction. Only 13% of voters had an improved perception of him, and only 1 in 5 said the podcast made them want to tune in for more. So, this, like, I don't really know why some people who believe themselves to be on the left are so convinced that they just need to keep moving right. I don't know why they feel they need to keep appealing to people on the right of them, and like push away people on the left of them all the time. And especially when you're like the governor of California, when you're like, if you're already far left or something, then most people are on the right of you, so you want to appeal to at least some of them in order to get in power. When you're like a Democrat already, you're like right wing. So most people are to the left of you, especially if you're like some multi-millionaire state governor of the richest state. Most people are to the left of you. So why do you keep trying to appeal right? Like, if someone is already transphobic, they're going to vote for Donald Trump, right? They're already going to vote right because being transphobic is a core part of their personality. Someone like J.K. Rowling or whatever, that's their whole personality. Why would they vote for someone else who's saying, "Oh yeah, I'm transphobic, but I'm just nicer. I'm not quite as transphobic. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you on some things, but not on everything. Maybe we shouldn't take away all trans people's rights. But I'm still transphobic. Don't get the wrong idea." Why would they vote for you? They don't. They'll just be like, well, yeah, but you're not transphobic enough. You're a fake, you're a poser, you're not sincere, or whatever. Especially when you've only just seemed to have changed your mind overnight. But then why would anyone to the left of you, or even where you previously stood before, still support you? Like, you're loudly appealing to like the far right in a really obnoxious, horrible, factually incorrect way. How is, like, I feel like people like this guy take their people who vote for them entirely for granted and feel like they can't lose that vote. It's like, oh, well, everyone on the left has to vote for me, so now all I've got to do is appeal to the right. But they don't have to, and that's like why the Democrats lost, isn't it? Because they weren't appealing to left-wing people. They weren't saying popular things that people actually want to hear and support, and but also like the undecideds, or the people who are centrists, or the people who don't, like, most people don't care about trans people at all. So you're not going to gain anything from this. Like, there's like nothing to gain, and there's a lot to lose. You could lose. Like, I didn't have an opinion on Gavin Newsom up until now. Now I hate him. If I was American, I wouldn't vote for him. So he's obviously going to lose all the LGBT votes, but he's also going to lose the votes of people who are like, oh, why is his first guest was a Nazi? Like, well, that's a bit sus, isn't it? Like, it's not like, oh yeah, let's get someone else on from the left who I disagree with, and we can disagree on the best policies for, like, how the Democrats can win the next election, or let's disagree on left-wing politics, or, I mean, if you want to have a fucking argument, find two leftists. They're like the easiest, the most argumentative people on earth. There's so much room on the like left-wing side of politics to have arguments and discussions and interesting political debates, which can get very heated. And why would you need to get some far-right wacko on and say you agree with him on hating some minority? Like, it just makes you suspicious. So you seem to everyone right of you who you're trying to appeal to, they're like, well, you're a poser, and the guy I vote for is already doing this better. And for everyone to the left of you, they're like, well, what the fuck is this? You're right wing now, are you? Well, okay, I'm not interested in you anymore. It's just such a political suicide for them to think they can solve. Like, the Democratic Party is totally failed. Like, absolutely bottomed out. Everything they do, everything they stand for, everything that they've been trying, they need to totally rebrand, totally redesign, build from the bottom up. And I think a lot of them know that. Like, Gavin Newsom has obviously worked that out to some degree. But if they think they can do it by having exactly the same political positions apart from more transphobic or more sexist or more racist or something, or more anti-disabled, like they're trying to do in the UK, well, it's not going to work, is it? They're just going to lose the only votes they do have. And they're not going to gain any. So anyway, here we're seeing it playing out. And I think this is just going to be the case for lots of them. I think that lots of, like, incumbent centre-left politicians in the UK, US, and other countries are going to find out that becoming Trump light is, like, the quickest way to lose their base, and will not benefit them at all. And they're probably not capable of moving further left and actually caring about stuff, because that's probably not the kind of person they are, and they'll just have to be replaced, and we'll just need a new movement that doesn't include them. I just feel like that's the only, like, if you're the kind of person who's going to have a Nazi on a podcast and say you hate trans people, you're not the kind of person who, after 1 year of reflection, is going to be like, actually, we should have workers' rights. Like, it, yeah. He's just revealed himself to be a bit of a grifter, and then that's the end of it, really, I think. We'll see. America might not even have elections again anyway, so what we fussing about? Right. Let's see, how many more things can we get in here? Okay, we have We have some news I want to cover. There is another rant I want to do. We've definitely got some news to cover. And I did say there was going to be some good news, so maybe we should cover this. We'll cover some good news, and we're just talking about the US. We're going to do some more US stuff, okay? So we have two good legal rulings here, covered by Erin Reed at Erin in the Morning. You should all go check out Erin in the Morning. It's a great resource. So the first ruling comes from Judge Reyes. Yeah, I guess so. Rees just ruled that trans people have served honorably in the military. Judges Trump's military ban, which states trans people are inherently dishonorable, as unconstitutional and motivated by animus. And there's a good little quote here, which Erin has highlighted. So the situation is that Trump's tried to ban all trans people from the military, and they came up with this insane, like, trans people are innately, biologically dishonorable, not capable of serving honorably, deceitful, like, you know, the most extreme comic book level villain transphobia as an excuse for banning thousands, tens of thousands of people from the US military for absolutely no reason, in order to harm the military for no benefit to anyone. Anyway, just to stand a bit of authoritarianism. But anyway, so then some trans people, along with some legal groups, are suing the government because it's against the law. So they are the plaintiffs here, and the defendant is the US government. So here the judge has ruled the plaintiff's service records alone are Exhibit A for the proposition that trans persons can have the warrior ethos, physical and mental selflessness, honor, integrity, and discipline to ensure military excellence. The defendants agree. They agree that the plaintiffs are mentally and physically fit to serve and have served honorably, and have satisfied the rigorous standards demanded of them. Plaintiffs acknowledge they have made America safer, so why discharge them and other decorated soldiers? Crickets from the defendants on this key question. That's a pretty damning ruling, and I think, like, that's the reality of it, though, isn't it? I mean, there isn't any rational reason to ban trans people from the military, or from anything. But I mean, they're not going to be able to come up with a rational argument. They have had to say trans people are innately dishonorable, innately incapable of having the warrior ethos. And then you're just like, yeah, but, like, there's a bunch of trans people who have been in the army for 20 years and they're doing a good job. So that's just trivially, observably false. They don't have any other arguments. There's no other arguments. I mean, the reality is that I find trans people disgusting, so they should be banned from society. Like, that's the only transphobe argument anyway. Like, that's literally the full position. And they just don't really want to say it, because you can't say we're firing all these people from their jobs because we find them disgusting, because that won't stand up in court at all. But they've barely taken a step away from that to try and hide it. They've just said, oh, they're innately dishonorable. It's like, well, okay, that's obviously false. And then it just comes down to, do you have judges and people in power who are capable of rational thought, like this judge? Or are they cowards who suck up to Donald Trump and the anti-trans movement? Or are they irrational true believers themselves who find trans people disgusting? And that's just how it's going to come down to. But anyway, this ruling on this case with this judge happened to go our way, which is good. I know, like, the ban came in, Trump signed his little order, but it is still, like, up in the air what is really going to happen. I know this often happens in the US, like, someone proposes a bill, it becomes news. The bill gets signed in, it becomes news again. The judges rule on it, it becomes news again. They appeal it, it becomes news again. And like, wait, are they actually banned or not? Yeah, like, it keeps jumping, yes and no. it's complicated at best in a normal situation, but now where the Trump administration seems to be ignoring the rulings of judges, we will see. But it's a good ruling and it's true and it's good to see it written down, and this is the best we can hope for at the moment in this particular regard. But also we need to remember that this whole system could fail and you can end up with fascists in charge, and if that's the case, then you need to know that no one is, like, there's no one judge with a rational mind who's at the top of the tree who's going to control everything and sort everything out. Like, these are all small, like, acts of protest, and we just got to hope they all add up enough, and they are not enough on their own, so you also need to have your own plan, do your own fighting back, organize your own communities, and just hope that these judges that do happen to rule the right way are just part of the force which is enough to stop what's happening. But so this is like, yeah, this is about the military, and it's obviously at like a federal level. This other ruling, which Erin has also covered, it's also on Erin's site, but it was by a different journalist. In Florida, interestingly, so the 11th Circuit, which is a higher court in the US, man, I'm not an expert on this stuff, I'm sorry. What I do know about is what's going on behind this, but I think the 11th Circuit is one of the higher courts, but it's not the top one, obviously. But anyway, the 11th Circuit Court finds Florida school was not obligated to forcibly out trans students. Federal judges in the 11th Circuit found out that Leon County schools did not violate the parental rights of Jeffrey and January Littlejohn, the parents of a Florida student, when the school staff met with the 13-year-old about using preferred name and pronouns. The court said that the district was bound by reasonable expectations not to shock the conscience, a legal doctrine used to determine whether someone acted with unusual cruelty or malice, a bar that the district's actions did not clear. Defendants did not force the child to attend a student support plan meeting, did not invite the Littlejohns to that meeting, or to socially transition at school. The appendix said, in fact, the defendants did not force the Littlejohns' child to do anything at all. Another rational ruling from a judge. So, in the context of the man, Graham's frozen again. In the context of the troop ban, there is very clearly no rational way of, like, there's no rational argument for banning trans people from the military. There's no even irrational argument other than claiming that trans people are, like, inherently demonic or something, which they basically tried to do, because there's nothing else there. You can just look. Oh, look, trans people are serving in the military. Oh, they're meeting all of the requirements that you need to do that. They're good at their jobs. Their supervisors don't want to fire them. There's no argument there. But when it comes to outing trans kids, there is an argument you can sell at least to centrists who haven't ever thought about it. You can be like, oh, I'm just concerned. I just want to know what's going on in my school. I just want to know about my child. I just want to do the best for them, and I don't feel like I'm involved in stuff. And you'd be like, well, it does feel like the parents should be involved to some degree or whatever. But that's the position that you might take if you haven't thought about it. So if you're that person, I encourage you to think about it in a slightly different way, or to understand the perspective of the child, and to understand the perspective of human rights organizations and the law, which seems to not be agreeing with the opposition. Finally. So if you have a child and your child is LGBT and they don't feel that they can safely, comfortably come out to you, or they don't want to come out to you, they want to come out to someone else, why is that? For what reason? Like, when I was growing up, I was very fortunate to have good parents, and I don't think there is anything in my life that I would have told a teacher before I told my mum. Like, nothing. There was no I had some okay teachers, a couple of good teachers, some bad teachers. Even the good teachers that I trusted as people, who I liked as people, I would never have gone to first about anything over my mum. And that's because I really trusted my mum and I love my mum, and I was very fortunate to have good parents growing up. Not everyone does. If you're in a position where you feel like you need to tell the teacher before your parents, like, just think of the situation that leads to that. Like, maybe there's the wacky right-wing scenario where some group of teachers is going around for some reason trying to force kids to be LGBT, and they picked on one random kid and then tried to brainwash. Like, that is straight up insane conspiracy theory wacko nonsense. Like, that has never happened ever once. Or if it's happened once in human history, it has not happened a second time, because it makes absolutely no sense at all. There's no evidence of it happening. And as the judge pointed out, in fact, the defendants did not force the child to do anything at all. Offering support is not forcing anyone to do anything. So, yeah, that's one possibility, which is obviously not a possibility because it's fucking nonsense. And the other option is the kid felt like they needed to come out to someone and get support, but their parents weren't the ones who they felt they could trust the most. They felt like they could tell their friends or the teachers or the support staff or whatever. And that's, like, indicative of your parenting. Like, maybe in theory you could be a good parent, but you could just have an incredible teacher who was just so trustworthy and nice that the kid just felt like they should tell them first or whatever. But I feel like in most cases, if your kid feels like they're coming out to everyone apart from you, then you're the problem. Like, you've done something wrong. That doesn't mean you should necessarily feel like a failure of a parent if your kid, like, your kid comes out to you and you're supportive of them and you love them, and then you find out that they told, like, all their friends first. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm a failure of a parent. You should just be like, okay, well, kids have close relationships with their friends. That's normal and fine. If they didn't tell you for like 10 years or something, maybe you were giving off the wrong vibes. Maybe you can atone for that or something. But, like, the situation in which the school finds out before the kid is already bad and damning of the parent, I think. But if the child specifically asks them not to tell the parents, in the only situation in which this ruling would actually be relevant, which is the school is, like, keeping it a secret from the parents, that is so damning of the parents. Like, that's a child safety issue then. The child should be able to have secrets. They should be able to be safe. Like, some parents are child abusers. Some parents hate LGBT kids. LGBT people are significantly more likely to become homeless. Young LGBT people, particularly, are significantly more likely to become homeless than straight cis people, because they get kicked out by their parents. They get attacked by their parents. They get abused. They get assaulted and like verbally attacked and everything, in a way that ruins their life. And, like, kids have an understanding of this stuff. Sometimes they know that it is not safe to tell their parents, and that's the case in which they would come out to like a teacher or something before their parent. Like, so if you're someone who's like, oh, well, really, we should have... No, we can't always involve the parents, because sometimes the parents are child abusers. And that's just the reality of the world. It is sometimes a safeguarding protection issue to not involve some people. And sometimes that would just be one of the parents. Sometimes it might be both of them. And I just think if you're opposed to that, protecting children from potentially abusive parents, then you can't pretend that this is about protecting kids at all. You are just saying, I do not care if this child is abused by their parents. I think it is more important that the parents know that their kid is LGBT than that the kid is safe. That's the decision you're making. And I'm just making the decision in the other way. Unfortunately, in this case, the judge has ruled in favor of the child's safety over your disgusting position. Right. We can definitely get in one other thing for sure. We'll cram in another thing. What shall we cover? Meow Poppy. I don't really want to talk about J.K. Rowling again. There's another J.K. Rowling thing, but I'm fucking sick of her. Okay, so we'll cover a community thing at the end. So I saw this today, and of course it's not actually become national news or anything, or I haven't even seen an article written about it. And that is because when stories actually affect trans people, no one cares. So this is just someone on Blue Sky posting a letter. So I haven't seen the original of this letter, but from the reaction, I think this letter is real. Though I couldn't say 100%, but at least it appears to be to me. So this is from Drew Sims on Blue Sky. And they say, yesterday, a Sheffield GP surgery notified its trans patients that they would no longer provide them with HRT regardless of their transition status. I have many friends who have been affected by this, including several post-op, putting their physical health at serious risk. So here's the clip of the letter. Unfortunately, the practice has had to take the decision to cease our prescribing and monitoring of hormonal medication in adult trans patients. This is not a decision we have taken lightly, but due to the closure of NHS centres, including the Tavistock, we feel we are not in a position to provide this additional service. This is because of lack of support and the work being outside of our expertise. The changes will occur from the 1st of April. We sincerely apologise for the inconvenience this will cause patients and advise you to contact your specialist care provider to seek alternative arrangements. That is straight up bullshit, okay? So, first of all, what has closing the Tavistock got to do with this at all? The Tavistock was a complete disaster, but was for helping trans kids, and this is saying adult trans services. They're saying they're not in a position, being out of their expertise to monitor hormone medication. Like, what are you talking about? You're saying it's just in trans patients. They offer 99% of the people they offer hormones to are cis people, and we just want the same monitoring, the same levels, the same target things. And by the way, I know from my experiences, what the gender identity clinics do is they write a letter and they say, we want you for the rest of this patient's life to prescribe hormones and check up on them to make sure their hormones are in these ranges. They give you a range. Estrogen should be in this range. Testosterone should be in this range. It happens to just be the same ranges as cis women, for trans women like myself. And so yeah, blatantly discriminatory. They're saying, oh yeah, we can do this one thing for cis people, but we can't do this exact same thing for trans people. Fucking nonsense. They are just lying. That is just untrue. We're not in a position to provide this additional service. It's not an additional service. It's literally just treating the trans patients the same as the cis patients. It's just providing us healthcare. My interactions with the GP recently have either been them actively trying to deny me help, like this letter seems to be doing to these people, or it's just been them being like, oh yeah, of course, I can repeat your prescription. Click on a button. Oh yeah, your levels look fine. Click on a button, which is exactly what they do with my asthma medication. None of my GPs are experts in lung health or asthma medication, or, some of the asthma medication I take are actually steroids, like hormonal stuff. And none of them they're not endocrinologists, they're not experts in this, but they know that they just check a few things on a letter from an expert. Oh, if the patient's showing these symptoms, it's fine. If not, send them off to a new specialist. And they just do it. And that is all they need to do for this. So this is very blatant discrimination And I like, this is not a decision we have taken lightly. Like, fuck off, is it? Like, absolute bullshit. That whoever's made this decision is an anti-trans activist, and they have just been like, right, fuck these people, and they've maybe had to argue with some of the other people in the practice. Just total nonsense, blatant discrimination, and I think this is probably illegal. It certainly should be illegal, but I think this is illegal, and I think if anyone affected by this has the strength to take this to court, then this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to do that for. If you like, obviously the gender critical movement is making a deal about targeting trans people and trying to ruin their lives. The media is trying to do the same thing. So it's scary, and I can see why people are scared, and also people feel quite isolated when you get a letter like this. Often you're like, I'm the only trans person I know who goes to my GP surgery. It can be very isolating. If you are someone affected by this, or you are someone whose friend is affected by this, I think you should do something about this, because someone's got to. Otherwise, other places will have this. Someone has to stand up to this, and we need to shut it down hard and fast. The people in charge of making this decision should lose their jobs. Like, this is very clear discrimination and should win in court. And if you're scared, like, come talk to me. Talk to a group like talk to a group like Trans Safety Network, and we can, as a community, find the funds for this. We can provide community support and strength. You're not on your own in doing something like this, and this is absolutely the kind of thing that we should be taking on in court, because currently the doctors are more afraid of the gender criticals than us, and that's why they're doing stuff like this. And if they're not going to support us, they need to be afraid that they will lose their medical license or get a fine, or at the very least get like sanctioned or whatever for doing something so clearly discriminatory. So if this has happened to you personally and you don't know what to do, message a trans rights group like Transsexual, Trans Safety Network, or whatever, or message me and I can help you do that. And let's do something about it. Let's break these people. Why should they be allowed to do this? Like, it's disgusting. They put like Drew Sims said, this is putting their physical health at risk. Taking hormones away from trans people is physically and mentally dangerous. And taking monitoring away is equally dangerous, because now there are people taking medicine without any monitoring, which they will have to buy off the internet, spending their money, not being able to get free healthcare like the NHS should provide to everyone, not just to cis people, and potentially giving them dangerous medicine or not the right doses, or disgusting, like absolutely disgusting. So we need to do something about this. I think like, if you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, tell them to tell the other person to tell the other person to do something. Get them involved. It doesn't have to be me. If you don't like me, talk to someone else. Just, this cannot be a thing where we all write an angry tweet and then nothing happens, because it will start happening to more people. And the more momentum they get, the harder it will be to push back against it. We need to, like, stamp this out straight away. So, we need to do something about this right away. Someone in chat saying, Katie, what can we do when scientists are TERFs too? Normies will listen to them because of their credentials. I mean, this is a problem in general with anything, not just trans people, that some of the people who are allegedly experts are actually like science-denying quacks. And the reality is that often, for a while, they will be able to sneak under the radar and cause a load of damage, and we just need to flag them up. Like, for example, something I was going to cover, but it wasn't really news, is the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is an American group which keeps track of all the hate groups, recently branded SEGM, SEGM, and GenSpect as hate groups. And they were created in order to create like a fake aura of like legitimacy and alternative trans healthcare, and like the idea is they make these like legitimate looking groups in order to trick people. Like that's the whole point. They're trying to conceal what they're up to, and it's full of like quacks with credentials but no real expertise, and who are irrational and hate trans people and stuff. And the way we stop these groups is by calling them out, like writing articles about them, making your your political representatives aware of them, making sure the community's aware of them. Like some people fall for this stuff. If you came out yesterday as a trans person and you're not part of this community or whatever, you're not on Blue Sky, you don't know, and your doctor recommends that you go to a Segum conference or something instead of getting real healthcare, that could harm you. We need people to know about it. And it's the same, like there's some report that's just come out today in the UK that was commissioned by the Conservatives by some gender critical anti-trans extremist, and they are gonna try and say that they're an expert in sex and gender, and you know their recommendations to eradicate trans people or whatever they are should be taken seriously. And we need to call this out. We need to say, look, this person is part of a hate group. They're biased. They very clearly don't have trans people's best interests at heart. This was commissioned by like a far right government. Like, we just need to keep flagging this stuff up and keep fighting back against it. And yeah, like there are young earth creationists, there are misogynists, there are racists who are also scientists and who push all these anti-science views, and we need to destroy their reputations. You do that not by lying about them like they do us. When transphobes, sexists, racists, misogynists try and destroy our reputations, they do it by lying. They do it by making stuff up. We don't need to do that. You need to expose them for who they are. You need to point out, no, this person is not some neutral, concerned expert who's come to a rational conclusion. Look, they are part of a hate group. They have signed this thing that says they want to remove all these people's rights. They are married to someone who is part of a hate group. They are part of this major campaigning lobbying group. They've received money from these people. They're connected to these politicians. And just keep pointing this stuff out over and over again. Because it takes time. But it does, like, all of these, they really do hide what they're up to. They really try and conceal it. They're never open about it because they know as much as you do their reputation as like a legitimate scientist is based on people not knowing about them. You know, not knowing what they're really doing. That they're intentionally deceitful for all of the stuff they go around. You know, the stuff they go around saying that trans people are inherently dishonorable, inherently deceitful. It's projection. They know what they're doing. Like, they hide all of their like connections and stuff. Come up with all of these like nice words like, oh no, we're not conversion therapists. We're gender critical therapists, or we just want exploratory therapy. Like the conversion therapy itself was a rebrand in order to make it sound nice, because what they were doing was obviously horrible. And it's the same now. Like, they're hoping you don't know that gender critical therapy is just a rebrand of conversion therapy. If they were confident in what they were doing, they would just proudly call it conversion therapy and support it. But they know it's bad. They know what they're doing isn't defensible, and so they try and hide it. So yeah, we just gotta keep highlighting it. But yeah, how's everyone in chat doing? It looks like chat's chilling out a bit. I think that's going to be the last thing we cover on this show. Every now and then, there's still chat going on, but it just doesn't show up in the little sidebar. And I'm like, oh no, it's disconnected. But it's fine. We're still there. Yeah, hopefully that was... Hopefully it was a good show. We covered a few things. I didn't get to cover a couple of things that I wanted to cover, but maybe we'll cover them next time. Yeah. Well, we had some more rants lined up. Anyway, it's over 2 hours now, so yeah, we're calling it here. Thanks for coming and hanging out, everyone. Make sure that you like the video if you'd like to. You can also like all of the other videos if you like. Yeah, you can write a comment too if you like. I don't know. Do what you want to do. It would be great if more people see these videos. And thanks for being here. And same time next week, yes. The week after that, there will not be a live stream, though I'm hoping there will still be videos. Because I'll be on holiday. But next week I'm still here. So see you same time next week, 8 p.m. UK time, Wednesday. Bye everyone.